It is Monday, June the 26th, and it's 2:03 p.m. here on the west coast of the United States of America. I hope that you are having a very good day and beginning of your week. So we're going to jump into this. We're going to see how this goes and how the day progresses. Last Friday, I think we had a pretty interesting day. I got some shout outs. We got our really cool soundboard stuff going. I hope that my voice is coming through well. You guys let me know if there's a difference in my voice and just communication-wise, we're on the same page. I'm pumped, man. Sky Apologetics says I'm pumped. So am I. Just a little correction there that my name is spelled without an H, but that's okay. It's completely fine, by the way. It's spelled without an H, but it's pronounced with an H. Just spell it with an H. Alpha, how you doing, man? Man of the winter. Says, repent therefore and turn back that your sins may be blotted out. Acts 3:19. How you doing? And Alice Dean in the house. What's going on? I am well. I'm well. Still fully, my voice still fully hasn't recovered. Still, I don't know whether that's a cold or whatever it is, but it's there. We'll wait folks to jump in here. Hit that like button, ladies and gentlemen, because it always helps. Hit that like button as you're on this. It's like the least thing you can possibly do to support this channel. Like the easiest thing you can possibly do to support this channel is actually hit the like button. David says, what's up? Hey guys, Arthur voice is coming out A-okay. Great. And Pat's in the house. What's up, Pat? How you doing? Okay, so if you guys, I'm going to comment on this, but if you, and he's not in here, if he jumps in here, then we'll go with that. But man, I'm feeling these earphones, these new ones. So these were, I got good friends. If he's in here, hey, drop a comment. I'll give you a shout out. But they're slick. Oh, they're so comfortable. They don't dangle around in the back, hugging my head. They're in my ears perfectly, by the way. I might yell because I can only hear myself through the mic. So it's like a perfect monitoring earphones. And then, yeah, everything about them is awesome. They're very low profile, or as they call them, negative profile. They don't stick out like the other ones. There he is. My guy right there, Henry Moscovian. My buddy Harach gave these to me. And dude, I'm loving it. Really am. Thank you. Big shout out. Very big shout out to Harach. You guys need to realize getting your audio right is so important. And I've messed around with some stuff on my audio, on my channels, and I'm probably going to be, the processing wise, got to get his noise gate. You guys tell me if anything changes and you like it or you don't. And then we'll go from there. Okay. But that should be good. And let's see. That's too much. There it is. And finally, I think I got it. Just this is has to do with the mic and how wide it opens up every time I'm talking, so it's not getting random noise. I just like processing it live is always a lot better than not. Okay? So you guys can't hear random background. It's just clean. And hearing that is just phenomenal in there, okay? And then range-wise, let's see. So you guys, because I'm such a soft-spoken individual. Yeah? You know, the thing was when I was on the radio the other day, that's one of the beautiful things about being on the radio is the mixing, the live mixing, and just the mixing the setup entirely together is just so beautiful. And you're like, dude, I love the way this audio is coming out. And I think I've gotten it closer to more of a more perfect union. But yeah, it looks, if you're having sound issues, it's your fault from now on. Okay? Thank you, brother. Thank you. Are you wireless? I'm not wireless. No, it's wired. But it's amazing. Sorry, I'm being such a geek right now. I'm being a total tech weirdo. And because a number of you guys do complain and you're like, hey, Arthur, your voice, it could be a lot better. You can be sounding more radio. Here we are. What's up, Saad Bunny? How you doing, brother? Mr. Arnold, how are you? Mike Ross is in the house, ladies and gentlemen. What's up, Mike? David said, I'm a total geek with tech. You, me, and Henry would get along very well, by the way, and we are getting along. But the other thing is that, David, we probably shouldn't walk into a tech store together. That's probably wouldn't be very good for us. All the way down, so it's not holding. Okay, we got folks jumping in here. Hey, if you're jumping in here, just say hello. We're live mixing audio so that you guys get a very crisp and better sound. So let me know. Let me know if you're actually appreciating the work that we're doing here. What's up, the American Cuban? How you doing, man? And Mr. Daryl King is in the house. What's up, Daryl? Hey, I got my Bible software up and running. It is next to me in this window. Let me know what questions you guys might have specifically about the Bible. This is our Q&A sort of thing, so you ask your questions. I'll try to supply the answers to the best of my abilities, and they're not perfect, but I will do my best. I actually feel like I'm in the radio studio right now. David said, my wife heard a comment and agrees that we shouldn't go into a tech store together. Look, my wife regularly tells Henry and I that we are very dangerous for one another and that we shouldn't be going into tech stores together. By the way, guys, I'm sorry for being a little late today because I have added the component of live streaming on Twitter. Okay, so right now we're live streaming on YouTube and Twitch, but I was adding to that going live on Twitter. And when I hit go, like everything was connected. I hit go and it was just like, it's not connecting. So I thought I'd done everything I was supposed to do, but I guess not. Look at that. Let me read this, actually. I'll pull this up and read it. Oof, that's small. Saad says, do you see questions from the Twitch platform as well? Yeah, Saad, I do see all the questions on my software from the Twitch platform. And whenever it does come up, I put it up, and then the YouTube viewers can watch, can see that comment is from Twitch. If you guys pay attention, when I put up the comments, there's a little YouTube icon on the bottom. When the question or comment comes in from Twitch, it'll have a little Twitch icon on the bottom. And it just changes. Like if I was live simultaneously on Facebook, it'll have a little Facebook icon on the bottom. Is the American Cuban the only atheist here? I don't think so. I saw Alice Dean in here. Good afternoon, Arthur. Greetings, everyone, from Phoenix, Arizona. This beautiful day pales in comparison to the beauty of our God. Wow, that's a pretty good line. That's a very good line. Alice, Alice says, is the Bible reliable? So again, because we want to speak very clearly and understand what we're talking about. Now, overall, the answer to this question, I would just say yes. But I don't think it's actually a question or it's a response in which it answers much. Okay? So my follow-up question to that would be something like, is the Bible reliable in regards to, you fill in the blank. What is it that you really want to know? What is it that you really want to, that you're really asking? So is the Bible reliable? There should be a thought that follows from that, Alice. Now, overall, I would say, yes, the Bible is reliable. But what does that get us, right? Like, let's just say your response is, I don't think the Bible is reliable. Then I'm going to say something like, give me an example as to where the Bible is unreliable. And suppose the conversation goes through something like that. Hey, you say, is the Bible reliable? I say, yes. You go, I don't think it's reliable. I go, so give me one place where you don't think it's reliable. And you say something like, well, there are miracles in the Bible. I go, yeah, and then what? I think those accounts are reliable. You go, well, miracles are impossible. Then I go, well, it seems like you already entered this conversation already believing that miracles are unreliable. Miracles are unreliable, or miracles don't happen. Therefore, any instance of a miracle you see, you're going to think is unreliable. That has nothing to do with the source. That has everything to do with your presuppositions. Not saying you're saying that, by the way. I'm just using that train of thought to get to a logical conclusion. And as to why I personally don't like questions like, is the Bible reliable? I prefer it to be more nuanced. Hey, let's give the American Cuban some credit here. He said, who said I'm an atheist? I still practice the faith and take my family to church. I'm a fallen theist who wishes these things were literally true. What? So, how would you categorize yourself? Dude, I wish. Can I interview you today? Hey, American Cuban, would you want to call in? And I just want to pick your mind a little. I'm dialoguing with more atheists lately. What's your what's your advice? Comma. Do you tend to use the Bible more or just try to find a common ground and lean more on the practical? It's a very good question there. It depends who I'm talking to. Look, if I need to quote the Bible, I'll quote the Bible. I don't have any issues quoting the Bible. But I don't need to. Again, depending on the nature of the conversation. If the atheist has issues with the Bible, then we'll talk about the Bible. If the issues are different, then we'll talk about different stuff. Okay, are there errors in the Bible? If so, does it matter? Yes, there are errors in our English Bible. Does it matter? Does it matter? Yeah, of course it matters. Does it matter? Is it of a fundamental nature? Does it matter in regards to theology or the basics, like essential points or the fundamental points of Christianity? No, I don't think any of those things that we know are errors matters in that sense. Will Nelson, please pray for the guidance of Muslims as they go through their Hajj season. Pray that God will work to draw searching pilgrims to himself through Christ and his atoning sacrifice. Thank you, Will. I say what Paul says. I desire that all men come to know Jesus and are in the place that I'm in without these chains. Now, I'm not in chains currently. I'm going to drop a link to call in, but this link is only for the American Cuban. Anybody else who calls in is going to be rejected. Okay? Correct. Are errors like some of the numbers in the Old Testament? What other categories of errors are there? Yeah, I would say generally it's errors of that sort. There's textual variance. Saad, you know this well. I mean, there might be some textual variance. Alternate readings of texts. Some people, if they want to say they're errors, I wouldn't. I would just say they're alternate readings or something like that. That could impact some stuff. But in regards to the question that was asked, that Alice asked, I don't think any of those things are issues. Saad says, I met a Syrian pastor recently who said that there were many Muslims in his church who encountered Christ in dreams. And that's not a question. I don't know why you put that there. Interesting. Alice says, you hear Christians say that the Bible is without errors and would disagree with your thoughts that there are errors which don't matter. Alice, that's not true, actually. In regards to inerrancy and infallibility, the Christian doctrine, okay, that you're referring to is in regards to the original manuscripts. They are not in regards to the English Bible I might hold in my hand, or to the Armenian Bible I might hold into my hand, or whatever language it's in. The conversation has to do with the original manuscripts. And I would agree with that. I actually, look, man, I'm as boring as it gets when it comes to some of this stuff. Okay, I am the very typical in regards to believing those things that fall in line with Orthodox Protestant evangelical Christianity. So I know what the view is. Those Christians wouldn't disagree with me. What they would say, it's in regards to the original manuscripts. So the numbers we have that are wrong, say in the Old Testament and stuff like that, yeah, we all know that. I mean, we know what the mistakes are. That's the thing. We know what the mistakes are. Is David A. the David from Anchor Church or different David? No, David A. is one of our mods. David A. is from Jersey. Hey, JB, I don't know what this question is meant to be. If Noah were here, you would listen, right? Okay, JB, you're going to get blocked. Alice says, I've had people get so angry and spit in my face that the KJV of the Bible is absolutely... Yeah, those are called KJV onlyists. They're... Look, I would say they're cultish at the very least. And the ones that you've probably interacted with don't know what they're talking about when it comes to these subjects. That's sort of like... Look, I'm very sorry, by the way, that you had to go through an experience like that. That's very silly, people. But those people specifically, you probably came across independent fundamentalist Baptists. That said those things to you. Paul says your mic distorts, by the way. Paul, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to touch my mic because nobody else has complained about the mic. You guys, it's okay with the spelling of the name. By the way, that was a joke. Like, I don't mind people spelling my name with an H. Completely fine. You guys have my permission to spell my name with an H. The funny thing, by the way, about this comment, Alice, is that the KJV has mistakes in it. Well-known mistakes. Alice, Rudy from Twitch says, I'm sorry for that, Alice. David says the mic is coming in through very clear. And I trust David, by the way. He's a musician. He knows his mics. If one group of Christians say one thing is true and the other group says something different, then what do we do? Well, it depends on what the groups are actually saying. So again, just please give me an example here. It's always very easy when we speak about these things in generalities and theoretical sort of whatever. You do whatever you do whenever two individuals of any general commonality say two different things, right? So when two scientists look at a thing and they say different things, what do you do? In regards to the 1,000 official Christian denominations because of text, I would very simply say that throwing that number out there is not in any way daunting, because what are the actual things they're disagreeing about? Those 1,000 denominations, what are they actually disagreeing about? Are they disagreeing with fundamental teachings of Christianity, the essential teachings of Christianity? Are they disagreeing on secondary issues or tertiary issues? Those things matter. One group is hating the LGBTQ plus and the other loves them. No Christian should be hating anyone. And if by disagreeing and saying that is a sin, you think that's hating, then you're wrong about that. That would mean that you're hating someone like me who thinks that thing is a sin and wrong. Again, that's a false dichotomy. I don't know. It's just like, if somebody's hating, legitimately hating, then that's wrong. It's unbiblical. Jesus spoke against it. If we're conflating disagreement and hate, then there's something wrong with our interpretation of reality. So I think homosexuality is a sin. I think the Bible teaches it's a sin. I think it's wrong. I think we shouldn't participate in it. We shouldn't do it. We can have all sorts of conversations around that, whether people are born like that, not born like that, whatever. Like, the conversations can continue and we'll have it. If somebody comes to me and says, oh, that means you hate gay people, I'm going to tell them, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't hate anyone. In science, you go to evidence and data, and you have two scientists who are looking at the same evidence and data and telling you two different things. Why are you assuming those scientists aren't looking at the evidence and the data? At the end of the day, what you're going to do is go to the data, go to the evidence, look at what you're saying, look at their interpretation of the evidence of data, because everybody interprets evidence and data, and make up your mind whether you agree with any of them or you disagree with both of them. You might come up with a third option there. And that's basically the point when it comes to any one of these things you're mentioning. I go to the evidence, I go to the data, which is the biblical text, and then I see if I agree or disagree, or whether we even have room to disagree on a subject like that. Paul says I'm an audio guy too. Okay, Paul, now I trust you as well. I don't know why there's a distortion here. I'm monitoring it. I can open it up for Alice to call in. It's just American Cuban wanted to call in, but it seems like he's not. He might not be here right now. If Alice wants to call in, she's more than welcome to call in as well. I actually don't watch the news. Oh, American Cubans calling in. I actually don't watch the news, Alice, because American Cuban, it keeps dropping, man. Just use a computer, please. Last time it worked when you called in. Yeah, I'm frankly, I don't care much about what people are saying on that. I think we're good. Hang on here. Mike, I did see it. I just don't want to comment on it currently. There's only one person I have issues with when it comes to calling in and the call just getting dropped, and it's the American Cuban. And I don't know what the reason is. It's the weirdest thing. Ruby from Twitch says, can I ask what Christian you are? I'm a Protestant Christian who falls in line with what I would say is just considered mainstream evangelicalism. Do you accept that people are convinced that they are Christians as you do? Think, say, and action hating the LGBTQ plus community regardless of if you watched and you... What? So this is very, very confusing. Alice, what are you trying to say? Do you accept that people are convinced that they are Christians as you do? Yeah, correct. Think, say, and action. So are you saying, do I accept if people are convinced they're Christians and hate LGBTQ people? Yes, and they're wrong. They're wrong for hating. I don't know how anybody can legitimately look at the words of Jesus, who very literally teaches that we should we should love those who hate us. We should love our enemies and pray for those who persecute us. And somehow, given the evidence and the data of the text of what Jesus is teaching, think it's okay to hate people. See what I mean there? Correct, Alice. And that's why I gave the example of scientists disagreeing. And you said you would go to the evidence and the data. What those people, whatever it is that they're saying, would have to go to the data. I just quoted some of the data of what Jesus is saying. And then I would ask them something like, are you agreeing or disagreeing with what Jesus says? It's not complicated. Just because you have multiple people disagreeing on a subject does not mean there's no truth there. This is a very good question by Dr. Octagon. Do you really think ancient people had the same sense of homosexuality as we do now? No, I do not, because I've studied the ancient world. I do not. Khachik the Merchant says, do you accept Zelle asking for a friend? If this is a transaction that deals with Apologia Center only, yes, we do have a Zelle account. I got friends who get my attention when I'm live streaming because they can't get my attention when when they can't get my attention when I'm live streaming over text. Okay, so here's again, Alice. Look, if you're going to have serious conversations with me, you can't do this. This is not how it works. Okay? You can't ask me a bunch of questions. And then when I answer your questions, you say something like, come on, you don't know what Jesus actually said. It doesn't matter. As a matter of fact, it matters this much to whether we know what Jesus said or we don't know what Jesus said. It doesn't even have anything to do with two Christians disagreeing with each other actually believe that's the stuff Jesus said. So your reasoning is flawed in so many ways here. You can ask a question and then you get an answer and the answer is a coherent answer and you backtrack to your original question as to why you think the Bible is reliable or not. Alice, I would love for you to call in and for me to have a conversation with you live on air. I'm going to give you another opportunity to call me live on air. You have a lot to say, and your disagreements are sharp, but they're very bad. Okay, that your disagreements are some of the most, and I'm not trying to be offensive here, okay? Your disagreements are some of the most elementary level disagreements. You don't have a mic? You don't need a mic. Put on headphones. You do not need a mic. Just take some of those Apple headphones and just stick them into your computer. Like most headphones have mics on them now. And your phone has a mic. Ruby from Twitch said, all phones have mics. You don't need a microphone like this. We're not going to crowdfund you a mic. No, it's just silly. It really is. American Cuban says, I think Alice is saying that Christian claims cannot be verified or falsified. it's abstract. It's not. She's not talking about whether I can verify it to an atheist. She's saying, why do Christians disagree with each other? That's a completely different question. And to finish this thought, American Cuban, if God wants us to believe, why can't Christians agree on the most fundamental topics such as salvation? Christians do agree on the most fundamental subjects as salvation. Come on, you know better than this. Your salvation is in Jesus. Jesus died for your sins. Name me a Christian who doesn't think Jesus died for your sins. Alice says the headphones have no mic. Why do you not understand? Christians do have the creed. We agree with the Apostles' Creed, but many Christians who agree with the creed are declared as heretics. The dividing line. Hey, can you call in? Please call in. Because, I mean, seriously, because. Just get on a computer, American Cuban, and call in. I don't even know where to begin on a comment like that, honestly. What's up, Carl? How you doing, man? "25 minutes, he's going to call in." Okay, let me try to explain kind of what Alice is confused about here. They're not answers, Alice. They're bad objections. Really bad objections. No, please, no music in the background, American Cuban, please. No, Daryl, because it's pointless. If somebody cannot understand the fact that Christians disagree on issues, and what those issues are, say secondary, tertiary issues, okay, which is everybody, by the way. Scientists disagree on issues, like historians disagree on issues. Everybody disagrees on certain issues. Okay. Because we all interpret data. This is a very core part of doing philosophy and understanding epistemology. It is not a good objection to say, look, Christians disagree. And then what? Oh, I don't believe Christians disagree with each other. Really? So you're just going to throw out thinking entirely because there's people disagreeing? No, but other things you can go to the data and the evidence and look at it and say, well, hey, this guy might be wrong. I'm going to agree with this guy. But with the Christian, when you do this, and I say something like, hey, Jesus said, let's just take the example that was given, okay? Let me break this down for you. So the example was, some Christians hate LGBTQ people. And I said, Jesus said, love your enemy, pray for those who persecute you. Any Christian that has hate in his heart towards anyone is in sin and going against the teachings of Jesus. The response to me was, you don't know Jesus said that. The fact that you can't see what you just did there is beyond me. Even if and this is the misquotation she was throwing out there, even if I don't know what Jesus said, the Christians that are disagreeing with each other believe Jesus said that. So one of them is going to be wrong in regards to what they believe Jesus said. You look at the text and you go, Christianity teaches you shouldn't hate people. Here's a guy who claims to be a Christian who hates people. Hey, buddy, you're wrong for hating people because Christianity and the founder of your religion taught you shouldn't hate people. How complicated is that? It's not complicated at all. And it is a complete sidestep to say, you don't know Jesus said that. Do you want to have a conversation about whether I think the Gospels are reliable or not? That's a different conversation. Okay? That's a very different conversation. See, again, these are the sorts of comments. You do not know what Jesus said, so your basis is not rock, it is sand. And I really wish you could call in. I really do wish you would call in. Simon Murphy, how you doing? Hey, we got more people joining here, so yeah, I'll entertain some of Alice's comments. But if this is the best you can do, Alice, that just tells me you haven't studied the subject with any sort of seriousness. And just ask a bunch of atheists who actually have studied the subject with some seriousness on whether we can actually say they're reliable, we know what Jesus said, how historical data looks, how historical interpretations look. If I can't, let's put it this way, Alice. Let's say I can't trust what Jesus said. Okay. Oh man, I should. Hey, why are you judging Christians, Alice? Why are you judging Christians? You have no right to judge people. Sky Apologetics, you can't write your email in the chat. I need a conversation partner right now so I can role play this sort of thinking with Alice. I really do. Let me ask you a very simple question, Alice. Do you think we, I don't know, we Do you think we know what Plato said? Or Aristotle? Better yet, do you know, do you think we know what Socrates said? Now just in full disclosure, folks, okay, in full disclosure, Alice did send me an email after the conversation. On Thursday. Okay. Okay, guys, you know what? I'm too. Let me go back and see some of the people's comments. Hey, Joy. Sorry about that. If Son is in will of the Father, and we know that the Holy Spirit comes from the Father, can we say that only God, the Father of Jesus is Son of God, the Lamb of God? What? I don't even know what you're asking. I don't even know the logic you're following when it comes to this question. Think again, sorry guys, because some of you guys, I get some of you guys, English is not a first language and all of that. Just think through and then like point it out, like write it out, see if it makes sense. I'm just having a hard time here, Joy Ram, to know what the question is. But how I wish Christians would just stop judging people. No, we don't know what Jesus said, so it's completely fine for us to judge people. That's your conclusion, by the way. Hey, Daryl, she doesn't have a mic on her device. She doesn't have a mic on her computer or phone or anything. She just doesn't have a mic. Hey, there's no need to yell. Dico says Alice's opinion seems more rooted in cultural church issues than doctrine. I don't blame her, but it's not articulated right. You said it, not me. This format does not work here, but it proves that two people communicating in real time cannot understand the context. So 2000, no, it just shows that you don't know what you're talking about. That's what it shows. I've done this for many, many years. Many, many years. I've communicated with people who disagree with me strongly on all sides of the issue. I can see whether somebody understands something properly and they're trying to articulate it, even if it's something they disagree with, or whether they have some sort of a twisted, warped understanding, or their questions are just coming out of reactions. Trust me, I can read that like the back of my hand. You accused me of judging Christians. That is what I complained about. You said, you realize when you say people shouldn't do this, that's a judgment. You didn't catch the logical maneuvering there that I did. You're saying, I wish Christians wouldn't judge people. And I said, why are you judging them for judging people? I didn't say you're twisted. I said you have a twisted understanding. It's two different things. Okay, Joey Ram, let's give it a second shot here. Before anything was created, who was submitting in whom? So there's a hierarchy in the Trinity. You would argue, some would argue that there's always been a hierarchy in the Trinity. In regards to the Son submitting to the Father, the Holy Spirit taking from the Father and the Son. I don't know where you're going with this. Hey.
Hello?
Hey.
Hey. There you go. Finally.
Cheers. Cheers, man. Hang on. I gotta do cheers here. Finally. What's up, brother?
Oh, man. Good. Happy Monday.
You too, man.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I got people calling me an atheist. I don't think I'm exactly an atheist.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's very interesting that you said that you wish all this stuff was real, right?
Yeah.
And then you're still going to church with your family and stuff.
Yeah. Well, we're still Christian. We still raise them in the faith. My wife is a strong Christian. I was a minister in training, actually ministering when I got married, and then this whole deconstruction process started.
When was that?
About 3 years ago. But I was a minister. I was like a minister in training for like 10 years.
By the way, if I ask personal questions and you're just like, you don't want to answer it because of the internet, just don't, okay? Be like, I'm uncomfortable answering that.
Sure.
How old are you?
29. Hello?
Yeah. I'm processing.
Okay.
Yeah. So you were studying. You were in seminary. You were studying to be a pastor.
A chaplain, pastor. Yeah. I did prison ministry for 5 years. I was a youth leader as well. I've been studying the Bible heavily for like 16 years.
And you decided. So you became a Christian in your teens.
Absolutely. Yeah. 13 years old. At 13 years old,
I
was hardcore from the beginning. I would argue with Jehovah's Witnesses, defending the Trinity while I was in high school, like during lunch, like that time. I was all in hardcore.
What like give me a little bit background on like the denomination or something like that. Like,
I was a charismatic for 7 years. But then I became more reformed. So then I left the charismatic church after 7 years. I wanted a more Bible-based church, so I went to the Reformed Baptist Church, a Reformed Baptist church. And then that's really when I started pouring heavily into ministry, and I was preaching on the pulpit and everything. But then I just joined a regular Southern Baptist church, and now we just attend church as Catholics, because we have kids, so we're really busy anyway. But when I stepped off the pulpit and started studying this, not in an apologetic way, not in a spiritual way, but in a textual, historical way,
Hmm.
That's when I started seeing all these problems, because it was no longer something to defend. I was actually looking at it like objectively, in my opinion.
And so you went into seminary or Bible college? What were you studying?
Seminary, Liberty University
Yeah.
online.
What's your like background in?
It was a Master of Divinity, a very general
No,
Master of
like
Divinity.
in order to go for a master's degree, you gotta have a bachelor's.
Oh, teaching, education. I went into education.
Oh, nice. That's
Yeah,
cool.
as a plan B.
Hmm. So what would you? Okay, so let me. Okay, I'll break it. This. Do you still believe that God exists?
I'm not sure. I believe there's got to be something out there, but I don't know if I can't say it's a supernatural being that loves us, but I think there's got to be something divine out there that started the whole universe and keeps it sustaining.
Okay, so we would qualify that as something like a general. Um, would you say like general theism would be
A
okay with
very
that?
general theist. A very general theist.
Okay, so it would still
Yeah.
be like theism. We'd call this being God.
Other religions called it the Tao. Um, so
Let's
there's
not deal with other what other
yeah, yeah. That's
religions
fine.
would
That's fine.
call it. By the way, just it gets confusing because sometimes like whatever. It just because if I say God, I mean something completely different than somebody else might believe in, like
I understand. I
a
understand.
general force of sorts or whatever, right? Say like in Hinduism, like I wouldn't agree that we both believe in the same thing, even in the
Sure, sure.
even in the most general sense. So you think there's a let's just say there's a cause to the universe
Yeah.
that is not the universe, right? Like you would agree with that?
It could be part of it could be the universe itself, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. So
Or it
like
could
I
not be.
wouldn't qualify that as theism, even if it could be. Like for me, that's
Maybe
pantheism,
pantheist. Yeah.
pantheism sorts, right?
Yeah. But I'm not sure.
Yeah, so you're agnostic.
Probably.
Yeah, I think that would be the fairest.
Hmm.
I would say
Sure.
that's the fairest evaluation, because then that way you wouldn't have to say like agnostic means I don't believe or disbelieve in a god, right? Um, it's a fair qualification there.
I'm not sure, but if you ask me to take a position, I would say there's got to be something, in my opinion, but I don't know 100%.
Well, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think you need to know 100%. By the way,
Yeah.
I think there's probably very few things in life that we know for 100%.
Yeah. I wish Christianity was literally true. Like I did my
So
whole life. It was my
what is
passion.
it?
It got me out of bed in the morning. It was my everything.
So what is it specifically that let's just call it the thread that you picked on, that you started pulling, that started this whole deconversion kind of thing?
Okay. Millions of Christians, or rather people who claim to be Christians, are going to hell, and because they're not actually Christians, but God isn't actually showing them. Like he's not revealing himself in the way that he revealed himself to the apostle Paul. They just kind of have to rely on theological debates or whatever. And so I believe that for 10 plus years. And I never liked it, but then it gets to the question of justice and like, how is it fair? Like the Jehovah's Witnesses I used to argue with in high school, they were raised into their religion and they would accept all the core tenets of Christianity with just minor tweaks. Jesus is not part of the Trinity, um, but they don't know that, right? They don't know that. They think they're choosing the right thing. So I'm arguing with them, saying you're going to hell, they're arguing with me saying, I'm going to be exterminated forever. I'm not going to get eternal life. Like, God's not intervening. And so God's allowing millions, if not billions of people to be in ignorance. And that just, how can that, I just couldn't see how that could be good by any definition of the word good. I don't see how hell solves the problem. I don't know how hell solves the problem of sin and ignorance. So that's more or less where I kind of fell off of a loving God that loves us and is in charge of the world.
I don't know why you're thinking hell solves any problems on that issue. I don't get that.
Oh, like, why would there have to be a hell at all? From where millions, if not billions, of people are going.
Let's
How
just
is
say
that a good
let's
thing?
just say there is no hell. Let's just say there's annihilation.
Okay.
Does that change anything for you?
There's still a lot of suffering on this earth.
The Bible assumes
So,
suffering on the earth.
yeah.
Yeah,
So,
again, as someone who studied the Bible, you said you were studying the Bible from 13 to think. I mean, you're an articulate, educated guy, man. And you're studying the Bible, and the Bible's got a story as to why there's evil and sin in the world.
yeah.
Did you somehow think that God needs to intervene to stop all of these acts of evil and sin?
He doesn't need to. If he
So,
doesn't
okay.
want to, he doesn't have to. There's no logical contradiction.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're going to define God as good and he loves us as a father,
Yeah.
just by any broad definition of a loving father, he would.
How do you know that?
And if I had 3 kids, would I allow one of them to fall into a volcano just to allow for free will? Uh, that's the simplest way I can put it. So the hell doctrine is,
Okay.
you know.
Go ahead.
Oh
ahead.
yeah, I'll give you a second to think. I'll give you a second to process
No, it's
that.
fine. It's fine. You continue.
And so if millions, if not billions of people are actually on their way to hell, can God, why can't God make it more clear that they're going to hell? And Christians who are doubting their salvation, like, I don't know, appear to them. Like, so I'm ultimately, is God good? Is where all these examples are leading to. If God isn't good, then okay,
Well,
does he
look, if God
exist?
isn't good, then he's not worthy of worship.
Yeah,
Okay. So that's a fair assessment. I would say that.
sure.
Jason, please don't tell people to call in. Guys, I've made this line open for 2 people, the American Cuban and Alice. If she wanted to call, she can't call in because she doesn't have a mic. Anybody calls in, I'm gonna reject it. Also, I'm definitely gonna not answer Travis's calls. Okay, just to put it out there because he's just being annoying. So okay, so it's the goodness of God that's an issue. I guess that's the thread, right?
Yeah,
You can't see. By the way, I just the volcano example you gave. I think is an overly simplistic one because that's not what's happening. Okay. Do you not conceive, or can you not conceive of a reality or a possibility in this sense that God has good reasons for allowing there to be the world the way it is?
there could be. There could be good reasons. That's what I accepted for many years. I had no answers to these questions for a
Mm-hmm.
long time, and I just said, okay, I'm just going to trust that there's a reason.
That's not necessarily what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure, right? Like, I'm sure you do things that your kids disagree with, and they can't even understand why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And so, like, from the kids' perspective, right? They're not kind of trusting you in midair. You would say they have reason to trust you.
Yeah.
Okay, so when obviously as Christians, when the Christian says, "Hey, I trust God," so when I say I trust God, I mean it in the sense that I have say there's an unanswered question I have, and there's a bunch of unanswered questions I have, by the way. Say there's an unanswered question I have, or a difficult question at the very least. Okay, I would look at the more clear answers and say, well, here are the clear answers. Here's kind of what I know about God. And based on that, even if I don't have the answer on this, I'm going to trust God on the answer on that. That seems pretty reasonable.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it's reasonable. There's
So,
an answer, we just don't know.
Correct. And God is not obligated necessarily to give us all the answers.
No,
He doesn't
if there
have to.
was a God, he doesn't have to. I agree.
He doesn't have to, yeah. And you would agree that God could do stuff that we just don't like.
Yeah. Yeah, so the answer, the closest thing to an answer that Christians have given, and I used to give it all the time to atheists, and the people I'm ministering to in prison, is free will. So free will sort of
And what
just,
do you think
yeah,
about that?
I used to accept it, and then I just looked into the free will problem as it relates to sin and judgment.
So, okay, run me through it.
Okay, we're all destined for hell automatically just by being born. Agree? I mean, not predestined. I mean, like we all have a sinful nature. So
Sure,
unless we
that's
believe
fine.
in Jesus,
Yeah.
we're going to hell. I don't mean
Yes.
predestination. So by default, because we have a sin nature given to us by our ancestors, Adam and Eve.
Correct.
So the problem I have with that in terms of free will, like if free will is almost like a doctrine, sort of like for this theodicy problem,
Mm-hmm.
it's that we didn't choose to have the sinful nature. We're being judged for the free choice of Adam and Eve. So I don't see how that's free will if the default position is we're going to hell unless we believe, and most people don't even get a chance to believe because they haven't heard the gospel or other reasons. We're not being judged on free will. Um, Adam and Eve were being judged by free will. So I don't see how free will gets around that. The issue that we're all destined for hell.
I don't think the free will response tries to answer that question, by the way. In regards to the problem of evil, I think the free will response answers the problem of evil. But I don't think the free will response is trying to answer that question that you're asking.
Okay.
Which I think is going to be answered in a more systematic sense theologically.
Right. So this is where the connection for me is in terms of salvation and then the overall problem of suffering. Is it good for God to send people to hell for something they didn't do?
But God does not send people to hell for something they didn't do. God sends people to hell for something they did do.
Sin.
Correct. How familiar are you with the doctrine of guilt being imputed as versus to like actual sin that you commit and being judged for that?
Yeah, it's in Romans 5, I believe. Through one man, sin entered the world, so
Correct.
all have sin. Yeah.
So sin has entered the world, but say like a 3-month-old is not sinning actively, but they have the potential to sin. Correct?
Yeah. Sure.
So sins enter the world in the sense that there's a potential for people to sin. And then people act out on that sinfulness. I suppose the question that you're probably going to ask, or that is advantageous to ask in a situation like this, is something like, would anybody else have done a better job than Adam and Eve?
Yeah, that's a good question.
What do you think about that? You think there could have been anybody else that would have done a better job, and God was kind of like, no.
Not the way the story's written. The way the story's written, it seems like we were gonna fall. Whoever was put in that situation.
Yeah, I'd agree with you.
Like we're sinners by nature, right? You agree with that?
When you say we, you mean post Adam?
Yeah, post Adam and Eve.
Yes.
Ephesians chapter 2. By nature, we are children of wrath.
Correct.
So we're going to sin automatically because of something that was given to us. So we didn't choose that. And so God. So my question is, or I guess the issue, God is judging us for having a nature that we didn't choose to have. Like, do you see my point there?
Yeah, I get what you're saying, guys. I get the point that you're making.
Yeah, that's.
Hey, I'm sorry. Just 1 second, man. Hey, Travis, I'm just gonna warn you, man. Like, if you're gonna be in here and you're gonna like interact with us actually, and comment and interact with the chat, because all I see, like right now, I'm looking at my screen, and I see like 6-7 comments that's from Travis, and they're just random stuff. If you're not gonna do that, I'm probably gonna block you, and I don't do that very often. But just don't be annoying. And that goes to the rest of everybody else. Like, hey, if you're going to actually be involved in the chat and even interacting with each other, you don't like, well, God changed reflections so rainbows could occur. Like, dude, really? Like, like, if I were to sit down across from you at a restaurant, like, would you be having that sort of a conversation with me? Like, then, like, I don't know what to say at that point. Like, you probably don't have many friends. But we're having a decent conversation. Like this, the conversation that we're having right now on the air is the sort of conversation we would be having at a coffee shop. Right? Yeah. We're not just throwing out bumper sticker statements. Just don't do that for the sake of other people. It's better for you just to listen. Okay. Sorry, man. It's difficult for me because I'm trying to keep up with the comments that are coming in and then like paying attention to comments that would pertain. Say there was a question for you or there's a question for me that's involving this conversation we're having, but I'm looking at the screen. It's one guy just like writing random comments.
No, I know. That's...
Okay, and so it gets really frustrating. Then I'm like, I don't want to block anyone, but then I'm gonna have to just to save space on my screen.
He's just trolling your ministry.
That. I just don't want to do that.
He's just trolling your ministry.
Yeah, again, I'm not interested in that, man. Okay, I just don't. Okay, so like I get your. By the way, let me just distinguish between two things here. I think the emotional punch of the argument you're presenting, and then I think the logical kind of punch are two different things. I think the emotional punch is a lot stronger.
Sure.
Okay. And it should be. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. But every worldview has to deal with the givens. Okay. So like one of the givens is sin and evil in the world. Right. So like you would agree, even as a let's just say even as a non-Christian, you still think there's evil and sin in the world.
Yeah.
Or would you not qualify them as sin or evil or something?
I would still qualify them as evil,
but not sin necessarily.
No.
Okay, that's fine. We don't have to. I mean,
there's no scientific. I wish there was like a scientific, natural proof of that. Oh, this is sin. But I know it's just a.
That's fine. That's a theological, religious term. That's okay. It's more into the moral category. Evil, yes. So there's evil in the world. I think the Adam and Eve story, if we were just to look at it, the narrative of Adam and Eve, is giving us an origin story when it comes to evil in the world. Why is there evil in the world? What is the root cause of evil in the world?
Disobedience.
Okay, even forget that, like forget the scriptural thing, right? Like the root cause of evil in the world is humanity.
Sure.
Right? Like I think we would agree with that. You and I would both agree with that.
Yeah. Humans are corrupt.
So so every world view needs to make sense of the evil in the world.
Yeah.
And Christianity says the reason for the evil in the world is human beings. It's our decisions.
Right.
It is our I'll put it at opposition with some other views, by the way. So if we were to look at like ancient Greek philosophy, the reason why there's evil in the world is because of ignorance. So the issue is knowledge. Right? That would be the ancient philosophical worldview. Say like that would actually, I would say that would be the view of Buddhism as well. Ignorance is evil. And so what do you do? So you pursue enlightenment, you pursue knowledge and wisdom, and you pursue nirvana, say like in the Buddhist sense. Where I think Old Testament and New Testament tells you the way you're gonna deal with this evil in the world is gonna be by owning up to it, by repenting and accepting forgiveness. Just like if we just work with a given, let's just like, even if I were to be like really wide in my theological hug of different interpretations of, say, the Adam and Eve story or whatever like that. Like I think the bare bones of it would be something like, there's evil in the world. It is a result of humanity. And because of the result of humanity that there's evil in the world, you and I are evil in the current state. And we do evil things. And these evil things that we do is against God.
Yeah. That framework.
So what is it that, so you're saying, so what, like God should not have created humanity?
God could have.
He could have not created it, correct?
No. He could have created humanity without a devil, without a fall. And only the people who would have accepted Jesus. He didn't have to allow for rape. I'm sorry?
So you're saying he could have created only the people who would have accepted Jesus?
Yeah.
Without those people ever having to experience redemption and stuff like that.
Correct. And he could give them free will in a perfect state, but free will, and not allow the devil to enter the garden. Like he could have.
It doesn't seem to me that that's a possibility logically.
Yeah.
Have you looked at this, like in regards to the arguments, like philosophical theologians saying like that would be an impossibility?
I grew up on Reasonable Faith with William Lane Craig, 1 Minute Apologist,
sure.
Norman Geisler. I grew up on all that literature.
What's unconvincing with some of the stuff those guys say? That would be an impossibility.
Yeah. A perfect world with free will that wouldn't have a fall. We already have that in heaven. After the glorification of all things. So that world already exists or will exist.
It wouldn't be the same, because none of those people in heaven are people who are just created in that condition naturally. So by definition, it's not that world. We don't have that world. Every single one of the people in heaven have had to live life, sin, be redeemed, and therefore are there by the experience of redemption and the death of Jesus. So I'm just saying, like, factually, we do not have the world that you're explaining.
I see what you're saying. So the difference is one is post-redemption, and the other, the impossible one, the illogical one, is pre without any redemption, just like that from the very beginning.
Correct. Now, I actually think that would be a worse off world.
How come?
Because I think experiential knowledge is a qualitatively higher knowledge. So I would say the experience of redemption, the experience of sinning and then being redeemed from it, it's qualitatively better than a world in which people are perfect and never sin.
Right. That makes sense. Qualitatively for us, I would agree with that. For us, for those who are redeemed.
Yeah. Well, no, I would just say it's qualitatively better in regard. So the because we have God in the equation that we're talking about. In regards to knowledge of God, and I mean knowledge in multiple ways here, by the way, not just like mere informational knowledge. In regards to knowing God and being in a relationship with God and experiencing God, a world in which people sin and are redeemed by God and know that they're loved and they love back as a result is a qualitatively better world than a world in which people just are perfect, never sin, and just know God to be loving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, I actually think this argument I just presented, I think, is a very strong argument.
Yeah. Let me think it through, because
Sure.
if you just respond without thinking it through, right, we're just
No. You're absolutely, you should.
It's better to be redeemed than to have been quote saved from the very beginning. It's better qualitatively.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I agree with that point.
And that's partly why I think God created a world in which people were going to sin.
That's a good one.
Okay, so like I get I'm very sympathetic towards your what you're saying, like your initial issue. That's why I kind of asked that question of like, what was the thread? Okay, there always is a thread for any worldview, regardless of what we're talking about. I mean, I've thought a little bit about this, okay, in regards to what you're saying and the viewpoint you're coming from. Because my question is, I'm not convinced of people just saying, well, Adam and Eve had a free will to sin, and then therefore they did it, and then we're in the mess that we're in. Because immediately my question comes up is, was there anybody else that was better fitted for the job? That's right. So why didn't those guys get? Why didn't God create? Why didn't God like hire those guys for the job? And so it always takes us back to a point of God sets up the conditions. And I'm concerned about why God would set up the conditions the way he would. Okay? I need some reasons to process and through those things. And so therefore, in researching this and thinking about it, and again, I'm not the first person, but I've found this quantitative and qualitative distinction to be very important. And looking at relationships and the nature of relationships. And we can come up, all analogies fail, by the way. I don't hang my hat on any analogy like crazy, but relationships where there is love and forgiveness tend to be stronger and better in quality than relationships where that stuff doesn't exist.
Good point. I agree.
Right, you and I are married, man. We know this very well. We've had to forgive quite a bit. I don't know how long you've been married, by the way, but we've had to be forgiven quite a bit, and we've forgiven quite a bit. And every time, I should say, almost every time I have an argument with my wife, and it's a serious argument, not like, hey, why'd you leave your socks on the whatever floor or something, right? Where there's a qualitative kind of argument, and we have to really wrestle through that. And we go through it. Our relationship comes out on the other side, and we come out on the other side stronger than we were before.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's for me. This would have been the answer I gave you, and again, it gets into a lot more details. Solves why God would have set up the world the way He did, because I think God's trying to accomplish something that is beyond kind of like simplistic theological reflections that we hear. Even every once in a while we hear from the pulpit. Maybe too often we hear from the pulpit, right? Where it makes like God
Yeah.
seem like this teenager who's in really like needy teenager. Where I would say, okay, so what is God really trying to accomplish here? What's He after? And I think there's a number of confessions that have done a pretty decent job. There's a number of documents that have been written, but like the Westminster Confession, I'm very sure you're familiar with it. That the chief end of man is to love God and enjoy Him forever.
Heidelberg Catechism.
Yeah, correct. I actually have it sitting right there. So for me, I think it answers that question specifically, that the reasoning through like, okay, God knows people are going to sin. He still creates a world in which people sin. And then there's a redemption that happens at the same time, allowing for human free will, allowing for people to reject them, there's a great deal of evil. What's the alternative is my question. A world in which there is no free will, a world where there is no evil. And I'm not convinced whether saying, well, that world already exists in heaven. I don't think it does. Because people have already gone through that experience of being redeemed. People have gone through that experience of seeing how evil is. And sometimes, this doesn't naturally get my kind of intellectual curiosities tingling. But sometimes I think the best way we can communicate some of these things is through narratives. I mean, like generally stories rather than arguments of sorts. Right? It's the character arc that exists in every story we tell. Every single story starts up like this, and then you get your character at a better place through a bunch of decisions and struggles and sufferings. They get there. And I think that's probably the best way to communicate this. It's through that character arc.
Yeah, we're myth-making creatures who need a story to interpret the world.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. I think we're going to tell stories to tell our story is the way I would put it.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, cool, man.
I'll
Hey,
definitely ponder that. Thanks for
yeah,
the next
appreciate it. Look,
conversation.
shoot me an email. There might be some stuff I might have on this, like academic research. I'll have to dig through my old seminary stuff. But just if you're interested in seeing kind of academic arguments for this, shoot me some.
Yeah, I would love to.
Cool, man.
Sounds
Let's
good.
keep the dialogue going, man. Appreciate it.
Looking forward to it. God bless.
Thank you, man. You too. Well, I haven't blocked anyone. If any one of my moderators has blocked anyone, come out and say it. But yeah. Displaced Gamer says, heaven contradicts the idea that God can't have a world where people are free to make choices and only make good choices. If you believe in heaven, then you believe that God could have done that. That's not true. I explained that earlier. Because heaven is not that. That would not be heaven. That would not be heaven by definition. And the the parallels you put in the story, that would not be heaven. Thank you, David. Appreciate it. Yes. There are many things God can't do, by the way. I don't necessarily disagree with the overall statement here. I think there are things that God cannot do. Noodle says, you seem nice. Hey, thanks. Appreciate it. I think I am nice. Yeah, look, folks, I know my mods are in here. My mods have complete freedom. I'll tell them they have complete freedom to put people on timeout or to block people. But generally, I make people mods who have a similar characteristic to mine. They are not trigger happy. They don't just block people because they know kind of my heart. They know my channel. They know that I don't just randomly block people, even sometimes the most obnoxious of sorts. And we block bots is basically what we've blocked, or people we've continuously told not to spam the chat. And if they have, and then they've at the most they've essentially gotten put on timeout. And if they continue that kind of action, then yeah, we'll block them. Arthur, did angels fall from heaven? Just because I want this conversation to continue. Say yes. Do they have free will? I don't think angels, there's a number of differences between angels and humans. And I don't think we know much about angels, by the way. So quite a bit of it is speculation, I should say. I think maybe angels had a decision at a certain point to rebel against God, or those who've rebelled have already rebelled, and then those who haven't will never rebel, something like that. So yeah, I think you can say that. There's the other difference between humans and angels is that angels are not made in the image of God. We're made in the image of God. And I think that's a huge distinction and a difference that should be taken into consideration when it comes to this conversation. I'm not very sure whether I would presently say angels have free will the way you and I have free will. So what you're saying is essentially that God can't produce an outcome that he desires without going through a process. Yeah, yes, I'm okay with that. In this idea, that means the process is more powerful than God's ability to create. No, because he has an end goal, and there is, you could say, two ways God can get to that end goal. Some of them might be just complete impossibilities. And then the two ways to get to that end goal, one might be better than the other. And so therefore he's going to pick the one that's better than the other. Even though he could do the other one. What he's going to do is he's going to pick the other one because it meets certain conditions. So he's still sovereign over it. No, guys, I specifically made it available for the American Cuban to call in because I wanted, somebody accused him of being an atheist and he said, I'm not. And then he made a couple of other comments and I said, hey, I want to have this discussion with you. Okay. Because I want to get to know my viewers as well. So if that happens for some of you guys, and some of you guys have called in and we've gotten to know each other, so it's a bit different. So right now we're just hanging on. We'll see whether we'll take other calls and stuff. But Jerome saying, can I call in? Just hang on, Jerome. I kind of don't want to just shift gears into a different sort of conversation just yet. I did the same thing with Alice, who said that she doesn't have a. Hey, Alice, look, I'm willing. She's not in here. Alice, if you're in here, let me know. I'm gonna wait until to see if Alice is in here, and I'll say what I was gonna say. Hey, Jerome, you want to get put on timeout? Somebody accused him of being an atheist. It's an insane sentence. Well, somebody said he's an atheist, and he said I'm not. I just hang on there, Jerome. Can you speak on the Bible being banned in Utah? Who said the Bible's been banned in Utah? This is new news to me, man. What? Utah district. Okay, so this is the Guardian, guys. Dude. Okay, so you guys, man, don't read headlines only. Okay, so let's pull this up. Because I was going to be like,
this is serious.
Okay. And
what are you doing?
Let's pull up the article. Let's see what it's saying. Utah district returns Bible to school libraries after reversal of parent-led ban. Davis School District, north of Salt Lake City, voted unanimously to accept recommendation by subcommittee to reinstate the book. They essentially took the Bible out of their libraries. That's hilarious to me. Like the book that is arguably the foundation for all literature in Western culture gets banned. It's hilarious. So it doesn't seem like they banned it in Utah. It was just a school district, guys. Come on. What a horrendous thing. What a horrendous thing to accuse someone of. Huh? They have horns, man. You never want to accuse people of being an atheist because atheists have horns and they're like devilish and they wear weird clothing. Hey, Displaced Gamer, you're more than welcome to call me. Tuesdays is when I take the calls in, but it seems like I've been taking calls in every single day. It might just become a call-in show. I'm not sure. That might be, hey, look, one of the things about YouTube is you start things and you do it a certain way, and you might do certain things very well and some things not so well, and then you develop a certain kind of audience, and then you essentially are going to go with what your audience wants. And if the audience wants call-in shows, guess what we're going to give them? Call-in shows. Dr. Octagon said, I've been accused of being many things as an atheist. Hey, I've been accused of being many things as a Christian. If people can't tell the difference between these two things, then I don't know what to say about them. By the way, I do think that the Bible's got quite a bit of adult material in there. When I say adult, I mean adult level. Like even wars, for example, right? Like war and fighting. Like the David and Goliath story is pretty pretty intense. Like, it's the cute David with his rock. It's like, dude, people get their heads chopped off in that story. It's a serious story. Paul. Come on, Paul.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
I'm live almost every single day at 2 except Wednesdays. So 2 o'clock we go live. That's Pacific Standard Time. Yes, sirree. Hit that like button if you haven't already. Hey, we got 27 people in here live watching. Appreciate you guys, by the way. 28. Appreciate you guys. Thanks. But we only have 20 likes. So we got 8 people who haven't hit that like button. Come on, folks. Hit that like button. I should say there are ways that you could support this channel financially, and we'd appreciate that. So I'll do a little promo here. If you, wrong button. Here we go. If you enjoy this content, you enjoy this channel, and that it provides some kind of quality and value to you and your life, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. And you can go to patreon.com/Apologia Center or check out the links in the description box. That'll take you there. And you can become a supporter of this channel. You become a patron for as little as $5 a month, and you get a bunch of perks that comes with that. Thanks for considering that, folks. Yep, I agree. You realize the David and Goliath story. Well, the reason why I brought up the David and Goliath story is because it's a pretty popular children's story as well. It gets told to kids all the time. That's why I brought it up. You don't really see other stories being, the coloring books at churches. Right, you don't see what's happening with, say, the Canaanites as a colored thing that you take to your parents from Sunday school and say, "Oh, look at David and Goliath." That's the reason why I brought that story up. Got to read between the lines sometimes. And as we say in Armenian, sometimes you got to have a nose hole. No, the stream's not ending, Jerome. Hey, look at that, guys. We got 30 people watching live. Appreciate it. We hit 30, but only 23 likes. Come on, guys. Get it up there. Imagine pressing the like button. Bible dingers in the house, ladies and gentlemen. What's going on? I think a lot of the issues about the other books being proposed to be banned is that some of them have drawings and pictures. Well, I think you can get summaries. There is nothing wrong with summarizing a story or a text or something like that. Or there's even nothing really wrong with summarizing an academic paper. I mean, they're called abstracts. Folks, Okay, we'll take should we take a vote on whether anybody wants Jerome to call in? Who wants Jerome to call in? If you want Jerome to call in, press the number 1. Do you think it would have been a good idea for... Sorry. Do you think it would have been a good idea for it right church to exclude... No, it would not have been a good idea to exclude Exodus and Leviticus. Jerome went to church yesterday. Do you want to hear the story tomorrow? Kind of cringe almost. Jerome, I don't mind hearing the story today. And folks seem like they want to hear the story today. Hey man, you're the one who volunteered. Don't chicken out now. Oh man.
This is a sickness of the highest order.
This one is just for Jerome, guys. Okay, Jerome. Mike, you're gonna have to go back and watch it. Yeah, I might actually shorten this whole thing and just leave that conversation up. I should say I'm thinking about just unlisting the live streams. And then if there's portions of the live streams that I want to leave up as a video, then just doing that and then throwing the rest to Patreon. Oh, this term doesn't exist in the Bible, by the way. The sin of Adam. No, it's not a joke, Jerome. That's a link that's been dropped for you. The chat voted. I'm not going to go against the people. I know you live in a monarchy, man, but we live in the representative republic. The people have voiced their opinion, and I am going to respect the voice of the people. I asked because he was punished. Actually, let's go look at the text. It's very interesting to me. So because you have done this is verse 14 of chapter 3 of Genesis. Because you've done this is to Adam. Cursed are you, this is to the serpent. The serpent actually gets cursed. Cursed are you above livestock, above all the beasts of the field. Your belly should, okay. And then there's this passage here. Okay, to the woman he said, I'll surely multiply your pain and childbearing. So it's multiply your pain. It doesn't say create new pain or something like that. Maybe it could be taken like that, but whatever. Okay, and then there's a conflict that arises between the man and the woman, or the wife and the husband. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband's, but he shall rule over you. This is for those who think about like toxic masculinity. This is justifying that stuff or whatever. It's just not. It's giving you the reality of conflict between men and women, husbands and wives specifically. Okay. Now to Adam, it's a longer list. Because you've listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat. Notice it's I commanded you. You shall not eat. Cursed is the ground. So there's another curse here, but it's not Adam, it's the ground. So there's a curse on the serpent, and then there's a curse on the ground. Okay. And in pain you shall eat of it the days of your life, all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you. Notice this becomes a general thing for humanity, not just Adam. Like Adam dies and then there's none of this. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face or brow you shall eat bread till you return to the ground. Out of the ground you were taken, and you will die, right? So this has to do with death actually taking its root on the human. because previously they didn't experience death because they had access to the tree. And that's it. That's the text. So they're all punished, but Adam's punishment is a bit more. What did Eve get punished for? For listening to the serpent. The serpent gets punished, cursed, which is different. Eve gets punished, and then Adam gets punished, and then the ground is cursed. Whoa. That's weird. Hey, call back, Jerome. It wasn't letting me take your call for some reason. It said that there's another interview in progress. Call again, Jerome. Jerome's going to call and talk like this. It's late here in England. I cannot speak very loudly. Hey, everybody, it's Jerome. Jerome has called. Yes, Saint Jerome. We're listening. Your voice is very, very low. Dude, I can't hear a word you're saying. There you are.
I used the wrong out. What am I doing? Like, this is how tired I am. I used the wrong microphone. Okay.
Okay, Saint
Yeah, no,
Jerome.
yeah. I heard the bit where you were like, "Oh, he's gonna call in and call in with a very quiet voice," and
And
yeah,
that's
that's kind
exactly.
of true. Mm.
Tell us.
I mean, there's not much to say really. It's kind of just annoying. It's like what I told you before, where it's just long and
So this
afterwards.
is a thing church you went to. This is the Ethiopian church.
Yeah. It was long, and we were there from about like 10 to about 6. But the reason we were there till about 6 was because there was a birthday party afterwards.
Okay.
For one of the people that go there.
And because you're an atheist and you hate all things fun, you just really didn't enjoy the birthday party.
No, that was the fun bit.
He went up to
It
me
was the
like,
bit.
"You shouldn't be celebrating birthdays."
What? No, that was the actual fun bit, but the bit before was just long. Like we went in and then I told you about the guy who runs the church, right? Who's my
You mean
pastor.
God?
And oh, nice one. Nice reversal, dude. Well done. Okay, that reversal was actually really good.
Ah, thank you. I'm here all
Yeah,
day.
so yeah, you are, yes. I've heard most of the conversations from before. Oof. I, s- I said before that you shouldn't talk the dramas, but now I want you to because of all
No,
the drama you've started. No? Oh,
no, because he doesn't know
interesting.
how to have normal conversations. It's like, bro, like if I like
You
I
said
think
you
I think I've proven myself enough to be not only a decent chap, as you on that side of the ocean would say,
yeah, we don't say that.
but
I've never heard anyone say that,
I'm a
so
pretty decent bloke, bro, wouldn't you say?
uh, uh, close enough.
Yeah, and I'm a pretty decent conversation partner, but
Hmm.
if like the way I view comments, by the way, like I try to live as ethically as I can. Like I don't go into people's chats on Facebook or whatever, Instagram, anywhere you can and just like write random stuff.
Hmm.
Like Zeus exists, like just like like some guys like post the atheist comment and I go in there and I'm like, you Satan worshiper. Like I don't like it's just stupid. It's stupid to the it's zenith. I actually think it's unethical quite a bit. People do. They should Yeah, I think people should
It's
seriously
unethical to
reconsider.
troll people online. That's crazy.
Yeah, look, man. There's two things I would say. There's two things that crosses my mind when it comes to, well, maybe like three. When it comes to commenting on stuff. Number one, I see the internet as an extension of my actual life, not another life. Like if I'm gonna do this in real life, I'm gonna do it on the internet. If I'm gonna do it on the internet and not in my personal life, actually, that's problematic. I think like people create this separate kind of existences, and that's problematic. You can justify all sorts of stupid things. That's why people will make comments. Recently, I've been seeing like, have you seen these boxing things? I heard about
No.
these, and then I saw something my friend said where people are like bashing athletes online. Like, oh man, that guy can't fight. He's such a weak this and that. I'll take that guy.
Oh.
And then the actual guy shows up at like there's actually a British commercial. Might be Paddy Power or something like one of the betting commercials where like the guys show up and beat people up. But I guess it's been done actually. I heard it's been done actually. Like some
Okay,
guy
nice.
saying
That
like,
sounds
"Oh
fun.
man, I'm gonna be at this gym if this guy," and then that guy like actually showed up and said, "Put on some gloves, let's fight."
Oh.
Right? It's the comments we make about people, right? It's like, you again when it comes to football, like somebody misses a goal and we go, "Oh man, that guy sucks."
Yeah.
And we're like,
yeah.
"Bro, he's like the best of the best of the best of the best." Right? Like you just again, now I know we get angry and frustrated. We make comments like that. Like I get that. But what I'm saying is, if I'm going to comment on someone, like I actually like think to myself, if I was sitting at a coffee shop with this guy, would I say this? And if the answer to that is like, no, probably not, I just don't say it.
Fair enough. Yeah.
The other thing for me that comes into it is whether this like promotes my good and the good of society. Like, because you go and you read people, like you can read the comment section and be like, we're doomed. Western society's going is like really bad. We are doomed.
Oh,
Woe
I've
to
got
our
something to say about that
grandchildren,
later.
right?
Oh, no.
No,
Yeah.
like in regards to the way people are interacting with each other,
Oh, no,
especially
that's
the
what I'm
political
talking
stuff.
about, but
Yeah.
it's related to what happened yesterday. But yeah,
Especially to the political stuff. Like it's just insane to me. It's like, can you actually have a dialogue about this or not? You can't. Just don't
yeah,
say
but
anything.
But remember, you're reading like online. Remember, you already said that these people wouldn't like carry their attitude online into real life anyway. So I don't
What I'm
think
saying,
that
no, it was what I'm
really.
saying is that I don't do that. Like I personally ask myself that question, and ultimately for me
Well,
as a Christian, I think about like my relationship with God, the purity of my heart, um, like those things matter to me, is what I'm trying to say. And
okay.
then people come in there and just make comments, and I'm like, dude, like seriously, just no. I've proven myself. I think I've proven myself over and beyond that I'm willing to have conversations with Christians, atheists, Buddhists, Hindus, Muslims. Doesn't matter, and any one of them, as long as it's good. But it's like I don't wake up. I can't wake up in the morning and then I see like this one guy who's watched like 4 of my videos and left like 82 comments. Like, it's like, bro.
I get that one. That's fair enough.
Like, and then the live streams, because the timestamps it, it'd be like 2 minutes, 32 seconds. It's like, that's all they've watched. You misrepresented X, Y, and Z. And then like, which I explained, let's just say like 10 minutes into it. And then like 5 minutes, 32 seconds, you Christians, X, Y, and Z. It's like, oh man, I never respond to that stuff.
Is that actually happening?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I would
Is
do
it?
it.
Guess I should just decide to read.
By the way, if you want to read my, if you want to read the most strange and just like weird and twisted comments in any of my videos, watch the little short I made about "You are not the bride of Christ," and bro, it's insane in there. Like it's lots and lots of women for some reason think they're actually the bride of Jesus. Like they actually think they're his wife. So okay, I don't want to take too much time. Okay, tell us about. It's late there. Tell us about your experience at church yesterday.
See, I don't even know. Like, it's I don't know if other people experience this, but when you go into these things and you're not like a Christian or whatever, all the people suddenly want you to talk to all like the higher ups of the church, right? I don't know why this is a thing, but like suddenly everybody just wants you to talk to them.
Hey,
I mean,
at
like
least you're not the guy who everyone's texting to talk to their son about this stuff.
Oh, I mean,
there's that side of it too.
Okay? That's part of their job, though. Like that, like they should expect to do that.
Dude,
But,
I get like I get comments sent to me like people get in touch with me through other people. Like somebody talks to like my mom, or somebody talks to a friend of my mom's that talks to my mom and wants my mom to talk to me so I can talk to their grandson's friend. And I'm like,
what is this? What is this chain? Why is it so long?
Yeah. And my mom's like on the phone. It's like, hey, will you talk to this person? It's like, I'm like, do you really realize it's strange for me to text someone and be like, hey, I want to talk to you about God. Like, and like, there's no connection there. Like, if you want to invite me to dinner and then like introduce us and maybe there's a conversation that starts it, like that's cool. But the other end of that is weird too. And as somebody who speaks from the other side of that, the correct side, the light side, as opposed to the dark side, it's strange.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'm being too critical of what happened, but I don't know. I just had to talk to him for like half an hour, and
that's probably because your mom asked.
Yeah, and she was sitting right next to me, which makes it so awkward as well. He was just there asking me like things about my education, which is like normal, right? Because everyone likes to ask me about like what I'm doing, what I'm studying, whatever. Like when you don't talk to somebody for a while, that's like the first thing they ask you for some reason. So that's fine. And then he moves on, and he's like, "We spoke last, like this was about a year ago," and he's like, "We spoke last time about like faith or whatever." And I said, and he said, "Has anything changed?" And I said, "No, not really." And then he said, "Oh, what was he saying?" I should have made notes about this, but I didn't. He was like, "Have you read into like arguments for Christianity?" And I said no, because lying is a good thing. And I'm joking, but I said no because I didn't really want to be like involved in a long discussion about whatever, because it should be stupid, and like talking to my like with my mum right next to me about it. So I just lied and said no, and then he's like, "Oh, you should go ahead and do that, and I'll talk to you about it next time, because you should obviously be aware of of the reasons why people believe certain things. And I said, yeah, sure. So I walked away from that conversation being like, maybe I shouldn't have lied to him and said that I didn't read into any of this stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
I wouldn't do that.
yeah. Maybe that was a bad idea because he was like, read into the Ethiopian Orthodox Church first and then read into other faiths. And I was like, wait,
The real
why would
church.
you yeah, why would you care about the order? Like the fact that you're telling me to care about like reading your faith first and then reading other people's stuff like seems a bit odd. I don't know
There's a
why
reason
people
for
care.
that, Jerome. And
Yeah,
traditional churches, because the Ethiopian church is going to look at itself as like one of the
the
true
true
churches.
one.
And if you're
Yeah, like
there's this also like there's this weird cultural thing. Like if you're Ethiopian, you should be a part of the Ethiopian church.
yes,
This
I
is
know.
true in the
That
sense of
is
Armenians. This is true when it comes to Assyrians. It's not as true when it comes to Catholics or even Greek Orthodox, right? Like, because you could be Orthodox, like Eastern Orthodox, and you're like Ukrainian and Russian and you're whatever, like you could be those things. But like with the Oriental Orthodox churches and the Coptic church, the Egyptian Coptic church, the Ethiopians fall under the Oriental churches, by the way. It's like that. It's like very nationally. Like I talk to people and then they'll be like, "Oh, you must be a part of the Armenian Apostolic Church," and I say, "No, I'm not. I'm Protestant."
no.
And they kind of look down on me, like especially if they're like older Armenians. They're like, "Oh, you
Right,
traitor,
right.
you traitor to your people." And I'm just like, I probably know a lot more about theology than you do, but there's an ethnic and national sort of thing, especially with Ethiopians and Armenians because they were so early to this stuff,
Exactly, yeah.
right? That there is that. It's just funny to me that this happens like after church on a Sunday
Yeah.
rather than like on a Tuesday at a coffee shop.
Oh no, well, that's because
Because
like I
that's
never go.
yeah.
I never like first of all I never go and I only went because my mom basically told me to. Um and like most of the people there, I hate when this happens, right? You go to a group, like you go to see a group of people that you don't see that much, and then they'll all say something like, "I knew you when you were like 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and you don't remember me." I had that said to me at least 12 times yesterday, and I'm not joking. It's really funny, but after the sixth person, it gets really boring. Like, okay, like what am I supposed to do with
Hey,
the
dude, you gotta
information
get
if you
married and
hated
have
me?
kids. I'm saying that stuff to kids now. I'm at
Oh
an
my.
age when I'm like, hey, child, I held you
And
in
they
my
and
arms.
and they do that really cringe thing where they put their hand down as if they're like they put their hand down to the ground and they're like, you were this tall,
Oh,
and I'm like, oh yeah,
oh, you were.
oh yeah, yeah, oh was I that tall? Yeah, okay. When I was like 4, yeah, sure, okay.
Somebody saw my kids recently. What was it? Oh yeah, I remember it. So it was a grandfather of a teammate my son had when they were like 4, 3, and my son's 9 now. And so I saw this gentleman, and he looks at my son and says, "Oh, you've grown up so much." And I was like, "Sir, that's
Yeah, sure.
what happens with the kids. They grow up." But you know what they mean.
Yeah, yeah.
These are
I,
situations in
I
which you
can't.
gotta read the heart of the people, not
Yeah,
what they're
exactly.
saying.
You can't blame them, but it's just like it's funny, and then it just becomes not funny. But I don't know, like I guess it's like some substantive things to say, really. One of the things he said was like, um, you can't treat like you can't treat people's religion like a science, which is something that you obviously believe, right? Um, and he made this analogy, which you've probably made this analogy yourself actually. He said something like, if you love your spouse, then it's not like you don't really work evidence into it. You just like you believe them first, and then you experience the feeling later, right? So that's like the that's the analogy he gave. I'm not giving the analogy too well, but I think you know what I'm kind of getting at, right? To where it's not like you're seeking for like hard evidence of like someone's like you loving your wife, for example. You're
Yeah, but
just
like
you're just doing it.
you should be doing that stuff before you marry the person.
Yeah, true. No, but he's talking about like a
Like
relationship,
suppose
right?
like when I was dating my wife, every single time she saw me, I was like bruised up and like bloody knuckles and stuff like that. And she's like,
Yeah.
every time we went out on a date, she was like, "Hey, what happened?" I'm like, "Oh, I fell." you know, and it's like, oh, I bumped into a wall, and right, and she's probably going to conclude two things. One is this guy's lying to me. He's constantly in fights, and he's not telling me the truth.
He's
But
just
he might be like kind of like violent person, right? It's always bloody, and or he's just like very clumsy, and he just keeps getting hurt. And she might have concluded on both of those evidences, I might not want to marry this guy because he might end up like blowing the house up because he's so incompetent, or he's violent enough where this violence is gonna somehow be lashed out on me. Right, which is a lot more serious and dangerous. And so I would say, like, there's a difference between, like, before you make decisions on things, let's say, if we're going to take that analogy to its logical conclusions, and then, like, being married, unless you have evidence to the contrary or something like that.
Right.
Like something out of character. Like, let's say my wife shows up home and, like, the car's all, like, just smashed around, and I'm like, hey, what happened? And she goes, oh, nothing, don't worry about it. Like, no, I should worry about it. You just showed up home and the car's all banged up. What happened? Like, so, like, you need conversation. I don't just go, oh, I trust her, I'm just gonna say I shouldn't worry about it. Like, that wouldn't be the sort of thing. But there are obviously a lot of stuff where I'm just gonna trust her. Like, hey, I'm taking the kids out for ice cream, right? I'm not going to sit there and be like, make sure when you get there, you drop a pin. Like, that would mean I'm, like, obsessive. That's a man that's an obsessive character who doesn't trust you already, right? I'm not going to require evidences for every single thing she does. But there's some other things that, you're going to ask for reasons and evidence and what's going on. But I wouldn't like treating people's religion like a science. You know what I would have said to this? And I'm not saying like if I were you, I would have said this. I'm just saying if I was me talking to him, I would have said something like, I don't treat people's religions like a science, but I treat the religion as a science. Like, so I'm distinguishing between like someone's sincerely held beliefs versus the thing that they're believing.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
Right? Like, so if somebody comes to me and they believe in astrology, they could be very sincere in believing it. And I could criticize astrology as a system of belief as opposed to like the person or whatever, Christian, Muslim, doesn't matter. Like, belief systems and worldviews ought to be criticized, and you ought to, because you're asking someone to devote their entire life to this thing, like to filter their life and actions, and like there's a lot that goes into it. You shouldn't do it. I mean, even according to Jesus, you shouldn't just randomly do it. You should count the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Jesus said, count the cost.
See, I don't think that. It's just weird because he says that to me, and then we'll say that you should read into like the evidence, right?
That's you're right.
So I don't think that he even thinks that, which is like really weird, because if he thinks that's just some weird like form of double think where you believe like contradictory things, so I can't tell if like, cause this guy's actually intelligent. Like he's does he have a doctorate or not? He's at least got a master's anyway. In theology or philosophy, one of the two, I forget.
Probably both.
But he's probably like he's like well educated, so I don't know why he'd say something like that and mean it in the way that we're presenting it here. But he said explicitly that though, so I don't know. Then
did you criticize your mom, bro?
What do you mean?
Did you criticize her? Maybe he might have been like, "Hey, don't criticize your mom's."
Oh no, he didn't say that. I didn't say anything. I'm not gonna lie. Like what I wanted to say was obviously like I could read a set of arguments and be convinced by it or not be convinced by it, or expect certain things to be like evident about your faith or whatever. But I don't know what the response would be to that, and I don't think I'd care to find out in the situation I was in. Because it just sounds kind of long to elongate the conversation and make it a bit I,
Yeah,
I don't want to say it's a hostile environment because that sounds like really bad, but
not hostile.
um, yeah, it's not really hostile, but it's just a bit like high pressure. I don't know. I don't even know. I don't know if I should call it that. Um, maybe you know what I mean, but I don't know, it's an
Look,
environment
I
that you're not really
genuinely
like.
think it's because people care about you.
No, I hear that, but it's just like trying. If you were to say something that you actually thought, um, in that situation, you'd be considered like rude or causing drama, or you did like elongate a conversation that you didn't even want to have in the first place.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, you would like educate me here in regards to Ethiopian culture. Now you're like weirdly British, right? But
no, but like,
that came out
but
so wrong. I didn't mean it like that.
no,
Like I
no,
seriously, I wasn't
it's
trying to be funny there.
no, no, don't worry about it. It's I guess I understand it, right? Like I'd love to like I guess I'd like to find out how many non-religious Ethiopians there are because like it's gotta
That'd be
be like
interesting.
sub 0.5% or something because like the way the culture works, like I learned yesterday that their greetings in like Amharic, right? Like some standard greetings are literally like
Yes.
theistic raps, right?
Hmm.
They have they're like they're given to people with the assumption that they are already like theistic, right? Which
Yeah, like
is
it would be the same in Arabic,
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
right? Like or even
Um,
Hebrew, like shalom, like like it's got this peace
yeah,
thing,
right,
or
right,
salam
right, right,
alaikum,
right,
like right, like
right,
they're theistic, like uh, God's blessing be on to you this morning. Like that's how you say
mm.
hello in my language, you know? It's sort of like that.
um, I don't
Well, I was
know.
talking,
It's
I
like,
was more curious about like disagreeing with older people.
oh yeah, that's just not a thing.
Yeah.
um, I mean, it's a thing that you're told not to do, and I'm not really the type of person to even risk that. It sounds like something. Yeah, I don't
I
know.
love
Like,
you said
I,
risk that.
yeah, it's kind of risky.
You're
I
like,
don't
Mom,
know.
I
It's
don't
just
agree with you. That's a risk, bro, because
yeah,
there's a shoe coming your way real quick.
yeah. No, like when like I'm kind of free to do that most times, but when it comes to specifically this, I just don't bother. And like maybe I should. I don't know how long you want this to go, but there was just like the reason why I'm the way I am right now in terms of how like reserved I am when it comes to these conversations is because I went to visit my grandma in the US once. Um, this was in 2019 or something. And then she went to one of those like I forgot what denomination it was. It was definitely like Protestant, but it
Were
wasn't
there
like one of the
flags and
mainline
shouting and
ones.
stuff?
No, not really.
Okay.
It seemed kind of tame, but there was like the one time we went, there was this one guy, and I'll never forget it. But the preacher guy made like his entire sermon about like Christians being lazy when it comes to like their faith and interacting with non-believers, and he was like, "No, you should never do that. These
Never
people
do
are
what?
bad.
Interact with non-believers?
Yeah, like have them as friends or whatever."
Oh Lord have.
And yeah, and I was actually sitting in there being like, "Oh,
It's like Jesus hung out with tax collectors and
yeah,
prostitutes,
I know.
dude.
That's the confusing part, right? And like I kind of knew about that, but I kind of took it the wrong. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but and I was just like annoyed at that. And so I kind of told my grandma like a year afterwards. I don't know why I waited so long, but I was like quite aggressive about it. And you see how these people like type in your chat, right? Like the reason why I cringe when people type like that is because I was doing the exact same thing back
Mm,
then to
look
my
at
own
that
grandma, right?
maturity, Jerome.
Yeah.
Maturity.
And it was so bad. Like she obviously told my mom got upset at me about it. And it was just like looking at like I can go back and read the text now. It just wasn't worth it. Like who was actually gonna like what did I expect was gonna happen
Mm.
at the end of that? Like did I think that she was suddenly gonna like if she believes that already, it doesn't really affect me because I don't really see her that much anyways, and she lives in a different country. And if she didn't believe that, I just sent like multiple text wars at her for no
Mm.
reason.
Yeah, like I would have said, like, just for folks, even if you're an atheist watching this and you're in a situation like that, there are ways to have those conversations. Like the way I would have approached it is like, Grandma, it's been a year. I'm still thinking about that one sermon that guy gave when I was at, like,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
immediately going to get him to be like, wow, like my
indeed. Yeah,
grandson, it's a year ago. Like, I don't even remember that sermon, right? And,
yeah,
and then you can say, you know, it's just, I'm just curious. Like Jesus hung out with people that were like unpleasant individuals.
mm,
And then the religious people were judging him over hanging out with these people. And they were. And then you go like, what do you think about that? Like,
yeah,
I'm trying to reconcile that sermon with the actions of Jesus. And like a conversation like that is probably going to be a lot more fruitful
mm,
rather than it's like, oh, I came to your church and that dumb guy was saying really stupid stuff. And yeah, by the way, I'm an atheist. This is all stupid anyways. It's like, yes. You better believe your grandma's going to call up your mom and be like,
yeah,
that son needs a
exactly.
whooping.
Well, I'm not sure how exactly she phrased it, but she was obviously quite upset about it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, right, like um, you have to remember like who you're talking to specifically, and it's not like I never, I don't think I even thought this, but I never should have thought that me lobbing text walls at her was gonna be like any like fruitful in any way because it's not like she's educated like on apologetics in the way you are, right?
Mhm.
Um, so it's not, she wouldn't be well equipped for that sort of conversation anyway. So she ended up just saying to me, I don't really care what the guy says. It doesn't matter. Like I'm just gonna love you anyway, which is like really good, right? Um, but I only knew that like way after I sent the giant text walls. So maybe I should have just not done that. So I kind of take that experience and just move on with it and like apply it to like all religious conversations now. Maybe I'm being a
But it
bit
should be
too
like all conversations, Jerome. Like it really should be like all conversations.
yeah, but I kind of treat these as some sort of special like do not interact conversation, especially with like family members now after what happened. It's just that like when like for example, right, immediately after I talked to the guy I just told you about, I talked to some other guy who was like 70 and he was from Jamaica, which is like very, very funny because the Jamaican and Ethiopian cultures are quite linked,
Mm,
um, with like Rastafarians or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
And he was worse than the other guy where he would like monologue for um like 10 minutes straight and I would sit there listen to him and I'd respond and sometimes I'd have to interrupt him to say something. But he spent the entire time complaining about how like there are too many atheists and and how they don't like see the complexity of a leaf leading to leading to God or whatever. And I was sitting there being like, oh, I've read into design arguments, like I'm not an idiot, but
Correct.
but I didn't bother saying anything because it just I get like sometimes it's just not worth it really because if you're telling me that I can't like if you're telling me that the non-believers are looking at leaves and hearing about theistic arguments and then explaining it away with no other like it's not like he decided to like steel man them or something or show like some sort of or the interaction with the opposing side or whatever. So he
Yeah.
just said, "Oh, I can't believe all these people who don't believe exactly the way I do," and he said that he went to his doctor and he asked his doctor why there are so many non-theists, and I was like, "Why are you going to some random doctor and asking him this question? Like, just to go to the appropriate people who talk about this, like actually like interact with somebody who does it." But obviously, I could have been that person, but I just couldn't be bothered because like, it's just not worth it. At least like from what I was doing there. But it's just that like in church environments, I don't know if it's like this for anybody else, but the moment they meet somebody who either they don't know but like they didn't know and they don't know who's like very active in the community or somebody who is explicitly not part of the community, they just feel like saying loads of things that like don't matter and they feel like just monologuing indefinitely.
Mm,
Um I don't know why they do this. It's like they want to have an interaction with these people clearly because they want them to convert, but at the same time they just dismiss them out of hand for no reason. Um, Again, like maybe I could have handled those interactions better by actually saying things I believed without like rather than just being like incredibly reserved. But um,
Yeah, I'm gonna help you come out of
you
your
know,
shell. Okay. No, like in seriousness, I think there's room to be reserved, and I think like culturally, there's some issues that we have to be sensitive to. Again, I mean this in the sense of like even if you are like religious, like interreligious dialogue.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'll give you an example. I used to when I had just started following Christ. I because I became like a follower of Christ within a Protestant context, I just told all my family members they needed to become Christians, and they all started looking at me funny because they're like, "You're being so stupid. We are Christians. We've been Christians for 2,000 years. What's wrong with you, right?" And what I meant to them, what I meant was, hey, you guys need to follow the Bible. Actually, you can't just be by name Christian. And then I realized that my conversations weren't going anywhere. Like people would immediately start resisting what I was saying. And then I kind of, as I was reading and studying, but I said, you know what, there's probably a better way for me to communicate this. Like the same idea without compromising the idea, but so people wouldn't resist it off the bat and look at me as like the strange fellow. So I just started asking people whether they followed Jesus the way Jesus told people to follow him. Like I would ask people, like, are you a Christian? And then they would say, oh, yes, of course I'm a Christian. I'm Armenian. Of course I'm a Christian. Right? That's probably what you get in the Ethiopian context. And then I would say, but do you do what the Bible says? Or do you follow Jesus? And then people generally would look at me and say, no, well, you know what? No, I don't. I don't do that. And I would say, okay. So I would say, then what is a Christian? Isn't a Christian a person who follows Jesus? And they would say, yes. I'd say, but you just told me you don't follow Jesus. And it was like, so can I legitimately call you a Christian, right? And those I figured out were a lot more friendlier of conversations, and people were actually processing the information and saying, hey, maybe I'm just, it's like a cultural inheritance I have, and I don't take this stuff seriously. But again, you want to be respectful in the midst of that. And then sometimes it's not worth it, honestly. Like even just inner church dialogue. I've had people come to me and make like theological comments, and I've just like been like, "Thank you very much." I've just walked away because I didn't want to become their teacher for the next 2 hours of showing them they don't know what they're talking about. Like in the church, like it was just like. I could do that. I could literally teach a class on the subject you're talking about, but I don't have the time for that right now. And neither do I think you're mentally receptive to accept that you're wrong on that issue in that way.
Mm.
Right. So if somebody comes to me on a divisive theological issue and says, why can't people believe this? I've actually had people say to me, I can't believe people believe this theologically on something that I believe. And they're looking to me to confirm that what they're saying. And then depending on the situation, but there's been times where I've told them, well, that's interesting. I believe that. And then it's just hilarious, right?
No,
because then they're like, what? And I'm like, well, there's good reasons to believe that. That's why I believe it. And then we'll have a conversation. But again, I got to be ready for that conversation.
See, if I was snarky enough, I would do that because, like, the guy did the exact same thing, and he's like, "I can't believe they're atheists." I was like, "Oh, interesting."
Yeah.
Um, hmm.
Yeah, they're a weird sort.
If I nice return. Wow.
You're like, yes, let's get rid of all of them. Hey, sorry. Hang on 1 second here. There's a Twitch comment coming in here, and I wanna address it. even though I don't speak like this. This person's name is the name on Twitch is boozed_Barbarossa. It says the Bible has some messed up sexist-ish in it. And then there's a follow-up that says and incest. Is that assuming the incest is not a part of the messed up ish in it?
No,
Like,
it's the ellipses.
look, boozed Barbarossa. The Bible has many things that are messed up in it. You're not the first person to discover this in the past 2,000 years, by the way, or 2,000 years plus.
Indeed, that's why.
Like,
that's why
literally, theologians study the messed up stuff in the Bible. So
that's why it should be age. It should be age restricted. You should have to have ID before you buy a Bible.
Well, look. When was the last time you saw a 5-year-old stroll up to a thing in the store and be like, "Hey, yes, I would like the King James version of the Bible, please." Do you see this happening? Because you live in a peculiar place if that's happening.
I mean, I haven't, but it must happen at some place. Like, you get like a 12-year-old buying it. I don't know.
Yeah, but the thing is, I just naturally have, like, if there's no pictures and stuff like that, in regards to literature, because there's a processing that happens, and I think if you don't have the background info, you're probably not going to process that information the same way.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So, if I tell my kids something, what was it? The other day we were having a conversation. Oh yeah, we were having a conversation about babies the other day with my kids, and
okay.
And then my kids said something like, "How do the babies like come out?" Right? And I'm looking at him, I'm looking at my wife, and I go, "Well, it's like we'll talk about that when you're a bit older." And I'm saying this to my 5-year-old, by the way. Okay, and then my daughter from the side goes, but that, like, how? And I'm like, well, we can talk about it. I was like, they're in the, because we were talking about whether they're in the stomach or not. Okay, because one of them made a comment like, well, maybe they poop the baby out? And I was like, okay, like, right? Like, because they made a comment like that. And I said, wait, the babies are not in the stomach. And then we were having a conversation about, like, in the stomach. And then there's this other compartment for the babies.
Yeah.
We're having a conversation with kids, guys. Right. And so, and then they were like, but then how do they come out? Right. Because they're thinking like, dude, there's like 2 ways things exit my body. Okay. Yeah. And then so I told them, hey, we can talk about that when you're a bit older. And it's funny because my older kids were like, okay, like completely satisfied that we're going to have that conversation when they're a bit older. But my youngest was like,
he didn't want
no, but like, how?
Yeah, I know.
And then he was like, do they cut the stomach open and take the child? And I was like, my wife and I both were like, well, sometimes.
Yeah, which is literally true. Yeah,
yeah, it's literally true. Right? Like, that happens sometimes, kid.
Yeah.
But
what's crazy is that's how I was born, by the way. Which is
cesarean
like
section.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Mm.
That's intense, dude. Like, I don't like. I have friends. Like, none of our kids were C-sections, but I've had friends and just like seeing. I'm talking from a man's perspective, seeing like all the guts kind of out, and then putting them back in. It's just, I don't know. I don't want to go through that. And so, but it was crazy because the youngest one was not satisfied, wanted more stuff, and it came to a point where I was just like, we'll talk about it later, man. But the reason why I say this is because I think there's no background to information, and there's an interpretation aspect where stuff can get left out. And that's why I wouldn't necessarily be like age restricted per se. I'll give you an example of a translation of a Bible that I had with some parents of students that I was teaching a Bible class on this. Very interesting, actually. Very interesting ethical dilemma. And versus like pictures. like which kids, because kids are very perceptive, and when it comes to pictures and stuff, because linguistically they got to form sentences, that's a lot more difficult. That's why I wouldn't be for like banning literature, because like if I hand a child, say, a textbook on like sexual procreation, all that stuff, no pictures, just words, and I gave it to them, they're gonna have a hard time understanding it. Okay, they might be introduced to some new words that they didn't know before. Say like the word intercourse. They'd be like, what is this? But like actually putting these things into sentences, they're gonna have a hard time. It's like, I don't even think like we should ban it, because they're, even if they had access to it, I don't think they'd be able to understand it well. As opposed to things that have pictures in it. That I think is different. Here's the situation that came up with the class I was teaching for, sort of a private school. I was teaching a Bible class, and I made the kids buy the NIV version of the Bible because the English is a lot easier in the NIV. Okay? But the NIV is also there's a lot of interpretation in modern language. And I hadn't even thought about this. It hadn't even crossed my mind when the parents brought it up. And the parents said, hey, my sixth grader showed up home and asked me what sex was. And I was like, okay, like, how's that my fault? I didn't say that. That's what I'm thinking. But they had a really good point. They said, because we were reading through Genesis, and then it says, it actually says when Adam had sex with Eve, she gave him a son.
Okay. Yeah.
And they went home and they're like, hey, what is this? And now look, in my opinion, I think your kids in sixth grade, these are conversations that probably should have been had, or you're having them, or maybe it's a good opportunity to have that conversation then.
What age is that? Like 10, 11, 12?
Sixth graders are 11.
Okay.
Yeah, 11 to 12, depending on. But
sense.
They were like, hey, we prefer for them to use the King James Bible. And I was like, cool, they can use a King James Bible, but because the King James Bible says Adam knew his wife, and she bore him a son. Now, the knew his wife is actually closer to the exact word in the Hebrew. The word is actually know. But people in the ancient world knew that you don't have children by just knowing someone, correct?
Right.
Like, hey, what's up, neighbor? What's your name? You know, boom, child. But it was a really good lesson for me. I was like, oh man, like I could be the reason why some of these kids are being introduced to these things via the Bible. Right? Like, that wasn't my intention. I mean, we were reading through the Genesis narrative, and for them just to become familiar to the biblical stories. Now, this was a class on, it was a class on Christianity, essentially. But the version became an issue there, which was interesting. And I had to kind of sit down with parents and talk to them and tell them why I prefer to use the NIV Bible as opposed to the King James Bible. But that's partly why there's kids, not kids Bibles in the sense of like children's stories Bibles, like translations or like a paraphrase. Like the Message is a paraphrase. It'd be interesting to see what the Message says actually on that text. But just, you could be introducing your kids to this stuff via the Bible. Parents should know that obviously the Bible's got information in it that your kid's going to come to you and say, hey, Dad, what does decapitated mean? Because they're curious. And it's like, where'd you read that? It's like, in the Bible. Right? For me, this is when parents are naive and unawares and they don't know the Bible themselves very well. Like, I gave my son, who reads very well, you guys have met him, my son has an NIV Bible. It's not a children's Bible, it's an actual Bible. It's got the whole Bible. And he reads it, takes it to church back and forth. But I'm already prepared to have those conversations with my son. right? Like if his natural curiosity leads him into a place where he comes and says, hey, what's up with this? How does this go? And so we'll have a conversation about that. But I'm aware of the Bible. I really see this being a problem for parents who aren't aware of the Bible themselves. And then they just think like giving a Bible to their kid is going to make them like, it's going to moralize them, right? Make them more moral people. And then their kids come back and they're like, hey, I found a bunch of stuff in this book that's questionable. And it's like, why is that guy saying that other woman is his sister? That's his wife. It's like, what's going on? And the parents freak out because they're like, how am I going to address this? Oh, I didn't know Abraham said that Sarah's his sister and his wife at the same time, right? Like, it's like, well, you should become familiar with the Bible yourself before giving it to your kids.
That's really funny. That's so weird, though. Why would you do that?
Which one?
Like, why would you,
Give your kids the Bible?
Yeah, why would you just give it to them unaided? Like, you just hand
Correct.
it to them. Like,
Correct.
Is that actually happening? That seems weird.
Yeah, I think folks do that. Again, like, give them a story Bible. Let them become familiar with the stories at the very least. Like, I gave my son a story Bible when he started reading. And this just has like the major stories summarized. And he read it like 4 times. And he's like, so he's familiar generally with the stories, but it just, again, as they mature and become teens and preteens and stuff, obviously conversations are going to be different. It's like, for me, it's a major issue as to how people want to shelter their kids and those sorts of things where, I mean, this is a parenting strategy of sorts, right? Like, so when my son goes to soccer, I give that example because he spends quite a bit with his teammates. And I don't think maybe one of his teammates like is a regular church attender. Or sorry, not one. Let's see. Maybe 2 of them, other than him. There's 2 of them, I think, that like regularly go to church with their parents. And then like I overhear these kids cussing, saying stuff. And like I don't protect him. They have reactions in games. Kids say things. They hear things and they repeat things. And then when they happen, then we have those conversations. Or if I hear something like really outlandishly, like crazy, I'll actually pull my son. And I've done this. I probably did this like 2 weeks ago. I pulled him aside and I said, hey, you know what? Did you hear that word? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, that's not the way we speak in our house. I just want you to know that, just in case you might get it confused.
Yeah, I can.
Right? But that would be the same if like, I would say the same exact thing if let's just say my son saw his friend yell at his mom and be like, I hate you, mom, right? I'd pull him aside and be like, hey, man, just so you don't get it confused, that's not the way you speak to us. Like, just preemptively letting you know that if you tell me or your mom you hate us and whatever, like X, Y, and Z, there's going to be some consequences, right? And again, you're younger than me, Jerome, right? Like, and people in the chat, some of them are older and stuff. A lot of them might be my age. This is just the reality of being a parent who is aware of what your kids are doing. I'm very much against Christians just sheltering their kids. I think kids ought to be sheltered from stuff. There's things they should be sheltered from because they're kids. And then as they grow up, it should be less and less of that. It would be really weird if you're like 22 years old and you have no idea about this stuff.
Yeah.
Your parents did not do a good job. I wouldn't look at that as like successful parenting.
See, and I wonder if, going back to what I was saying about the church, right? A lot of the people around my age, maybe a bit younger, who were there, who I spoke to, I wonder how familiar they are with like other faith systems and other beliefs that aren't specifically theirs. Again, like this is another, like I said, this is another like set of conversations that I think about but don't actually have because of the situation I find myself in. But I wonder because they seem like very involved. Like some of them are there, like they're there most weeks, and well, from what I know anyway, and then they're helping out within the actual building itself. So
Yeah.
I wonder how that works out. Um, and it's interesting to see how differently they were socialized from me, because I was just like allowed to skip most. Like I was never really like forced to go. Um, I was able to just play like football on Sundays or whatever. I'd spend my whole weekends
Got it.
playing for like my school team on Saturday and like another team on Sunday. And we play every week, and I'd just skip all that. And all these other kids are there going to church every week, and um I wonder if that's like made. It obviously has made like a
It's very
major
difficult to
difference. I wonder
judge
how.
that. It's very difficult to
Yeah.
judge that. Like, and I say that as a parent who's in a church, and then just seeing like how other people are socializing their kids and what kids are good at and what they excel in and all that. Like, so and you're gonna get different crowds with that. Like, we were at my son's game on Saturday, and then I was talking to one of the parents, and his son was playing in the game, and his other son was sitting next to him, and I was like, "Oh, he doesn't play," and he goes, "Nope, he does brain exercises. The guy's like a phenomenal chess player." And like,
Wow.
I suppose, like, and he's like 8, by the way, and I suppose as a chess player, you're gonna socialize with a completely different group of people that
Yeah.
have there's certain types of people that play chess, and there's certain types of people that play soccer, and even the non-religious sort of thing, right? Like, the people you're generally going to be socializing with and interacting with are going to be different, considering what you're doing. And it's really on parents as to how they want to socialize their kids. And again, you probably are able to do that till they're like 11, 12 years old. Once kids become pretty initiating, they're going to decide what they want to socialize themselves into, for the most part. Like, oh, I really enjoy this. I want to do this. I want to do that. And then even the amount of people, right? Like, that goes up and down depending what they're doing. And so as a parent, it really becomes a management issue there, rather than like a leadership issue, if that makes sense.
Yeah. But when I'm talking about socialization, I'm more talking about um your background information input. So what I mean by that is, when you're interacting in these sorts of conversations, and you're somebody like me who like was kind of socialized into my mom's faith, right? And at the
Yeah.
same time, I wasn't really, because I wouldn't go that often. And then I wonder, like, this is probably just a given, right? But if and when you look at the arguments or whatever, somebody like me, like, my background and information is going to be completely different to somebody who at least believes that they have spiritual experiences every week at the churches they go to,
Correct.
and they've probably read into a lot of this stuff already preemptively, and they're already like leading a certain sort of way. So like, this is just like a basic sociological, like, basically just a basic society point where um, like, your background information changes how you interpret arguments or whatever. But
Yeah,
linked
I think that's fine. Like, again, I think this is like, introduce your kids to this stuff. Like, I've actually, like, some of them, I remember watching a video. I know I've probably shared this before, but I remember watching a video, and the person I was watching was an atheist on YouTube who was giving some arguments against God's existence. And I think my youngest was next to me, and the guy said, like, "Oh, God doesn't exist," and then my son just goes, "But God does exist." And so I didn't stop there and go, "You're right, son. He's a moron." Right? Because the guy I was watching was like an academician. My response to my son was, "Hey, but some people don't think God exists." And then he's 5, mind you. He just turned 5. And his response was, "But God does exist." And I said, "Yes, I get that. I get that you believe that, but some people think God doesn't exist, and they have reasons and arguments for it." And so we had a kid-friendly discussion as to opposing beliefs. I lost Jerome for some reason. You back?
What? My laptop crashed and closed, and then just reopened. I was like,
That's weird.
okay.
You're getting hacked, bro. Some of the guys in the chat probably. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, I missed what you just said.
So what I was saying is that like we had a kid-friendly discussion as to opposing beliefs, that not everybody believes the things you believe.
Hmm.
But that's just good for their life, right? Like they're gonna, like the more I have those discussions with my kids, the less they're gonna be like, for lack of a better term, that this is something that gets thrown around nowadays, they're gonna be less of a snowflake when they grow up. Right? Like they're actually being conditioned from a young age to know that there are people out there who do not believe the things that they believe. Right? And then they'll get exposed to more and more of that stuff. And then they got to make up their minds on some of this stuff themselves. And so, but again, I took that opportunity to speak about not necessarily God's existence, because he's 4 or 5 years old, can conceptualize a good amount of that stuff. But I spoke to him more about people of different views, people of different beliefs.
What,
and
just generally?
that's good for a child.
Okay.
They need to know. Children need to know not everybody agrees with them. Not everybody believes the stuff they believe in. Not everybody's going to say yes to them. That is a part of growing up. But it's hard. Sometimes it's hard, you know. You got to like, it's a judgment call. You tell your kids, it's like, oh, do I want to have that conversation? Do I not want to have that conversation?
And this is probably why you want like 11-year-olds learning about philosophy in their school or something.
Correct. Because we want them to be, but that's the, look, Jerome, that is the stuff that has been the case for majority of world history. Not for everyone, not for the masses, not for the masses. I mean, you know, but like, it's funny, like regularly people will say stuff about homeschooling. They'll be like, oh, homeschooling's like negative stuff about homeschooling. I get that quite a bit. And then I tell them, or even independent schooling or with tutors and stuff. And then I tell them something like, you know, like all of the founding fathers of the United States were homeschooled. It's like the guys you celebrate as innovators in culture went through these very similar schooling processes. Like they weren't sitting in a classroom, whatever, 8 to 3 or whatever like that. Well, partly because they didn't exist. But
I was going to say.
Yeah, no, the argument's not whether it should be or shouldn't be. What I'm saying is you can't just be like, oh, homeschooling must really suck, when for 1900 some odd years, well, let's beyond that, right? Let's just say more than 2,000 years. People have been learning in that format. Like that was the education that kings were provided or princes were provided with. They had tutors.
Still are at times, yeah. And
they still are at times. And as a matter of fact, when you look at the like really, really wealthy, this is still the case. They still have tutors showing up to their homes and then going through it. And so it's not like good enough of an argument for me to be like, oh man, yeah, we didn't know what we were doing for all of history. And then we got this model that works so well, right? Let's just let kids hang out with each other and learn a bunch of stupid stuff from each other. So it's within the processing of that. And then you go, wait, how old were they when they learned that? It's like, by 14 years old, they knew 3 foreign languages. And then, you know, you'll read those articles that says scientists have discovered children learn languages better when they're younger. And you go, yes. We didn't need some scientists to tell us that, but thanks, scientists. Because we didn't know kids learn languages when they're younger better. Like, and then you go, cool. Let's. Somebody commented here. Dico wrote, John Adams graduated from Harvard. At what age? And did John Adams go to high school? No, because it didn't exist. You know, it's funny because like some of these guys were done with their with secondary education by the time they're 13, 14 years old. And then they have their like whatever college degrees by the time they're 18. And it's like, did they want to decide whether they want to pursue that or what? Like that's just been a part of the tradition. And yeah, I want them to learn that stuff because I think they're malleable. They have time on their hands. They can soak in lots of information at once, and the younger they are, the better it sticks. So if you want them to learn a language, teach them young, and then let them use it. It's going to take root better.
Mm.
Okay. Sean Kelly said, "Is God a scientist?" Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you should say yes. I was gonna
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, God is not only a scientist, but he's also a linguist and a philosopher and a biochemist.
Oh, no, some of you guys in chat are so funny, man.
It's like, how do I answer that question?
That is
Like,
crazy.
my response. Like, do you actually expect me to say no? Like,
Sometimes I think that some of my comments are uninteractable by a random streamer when I say things, and then I read things like that. I don't know, like even when I'm deciding to just troll for something, like for a minute and say something, and I read something like that, like where's the lead on from that? Is that I don't know.
hey, what does el pelón mean? How's your Spanish?
I don't know what that means.
Jason said someone from my church. My friend from church called you an el pelón. I don't know what that means, man. I hope it's not a cuss word. Because then I'll have two issues. Number one, I've been cussed at. Number two, your friend from church is cousin. Hey, Jason, tell me what that means. Hey, Drew, I'm going to turn this off. Thanks for calling, man. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Hey, I really appreciate you reasoning through these things because I think they're important. And I like the fact that you're just talking about your normal experiences. And like when you're talking and saying this stuff, by the way, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, like, do I do that when a new person comes to church?
Oh,
Like,
really?
I hope I'm not like that.
I would hope not, because it just sounds long. Like you have some guy, you're basically a captive audience member because of how the social structure works. And they're just telling you things that you already know, but you can't tell them that you already know it because I mean, maybe the thing I should take away from this is that I probably shouldn't lie to people like that.
Yes, correct. Not probably. You just shouldn't.
Yeah, maybe. Fair enough. But
well, we can get into the Nazis at the door and stuff, but yeah.
No, I don't. I just like that's it's not that deep. It's just that it's just not worth it. At least I don't think so at the time. But
his friend from church called me the bald one, by the way.
Oh,
that's what that means. Hey, you have him read that passage about the children making fun of the prophet and the man of God, calling him baldy. I know that's a fan favorite of the atheists. Hey, what about that one time they called him bald and the bear came out and killed them all?
I mean, that is a bit crazy, but still.
It is. It's a nutty story.
One more funny thing that happened. I don't know how you're gonna receive this, but after the first conversation happened, with the head priest guy, they because it's like this is Ethiopians, right? After the service, they go into this one building as like a massive group of about 50 people, and they like have food there, and they just have a conversation about general stuff, and they pray, like they pray sometimes. They talk about religious stuff, right? I mean, we're just in there, and this is before I talked to the 7-year-old Jamaican guy about like why there's so many atheists in the world. And he was comparing like Western society is like regressing because we're like losing our religious like leanings, I guess. I don't know, maybe I'm waffling too much, but we were talking to I was talking to one of the other priests, right? And I went over to my mom afterwards, and I talked to her about the guy, what he was saying to me, and he was like, he was one of those people who who likes to comment about how old I am because like it's this person I don't see that much. And he's like, "Oh, this guy's like really grown up now." I said to my mom, "Oh, he's another person who's done this," and she said, "No, you can't refer to the priest using he him pronouns. You have to use they." And I was like, "What?"
Ah,
I
yes.
was like,
Yeah,
"What?"
correct. But that's because of
That
the language.
I know.
Yeah,
I'm not
Armenian is
even
the
sure
same
about that.
way.
She said it's out of respect, and I was like, okay,
Yes.
that sounds like an incredibly funny joke.
So in Armenian, we like if you want to refer to a person like in the singular, you say du, like du.
Okay.
And if let's just say if a grandpa came to me and I wanted to ask him how he was, I wouldn't say du vonses. That means like how are you? I would say duk vonsek. So that's in the plural, all of it. And it's just a sign of respect. Yeah,
No,
but it's
I hear that. That's what she told me. But like, that's really funny given the obvious things about
well, given the
pronouns.
obvious thing that those guys are messing up a bunch of languages. Now we don't know what the heck we're saying. Like, is it respect? Are you calling this person multiple people? What's going on? We used to have linguistic rules, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
I'm gonna end it right there, bro. Hey, no,
You might as well.
Yeah. Hey, I am gonna say goodbye to you, and I'll tell you.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, so because I got to take my son to his practice.
Yeah.
But thanks, man. Folks, yeah, the reason why is because my son's I got to take him to meet up with a personal trainer, coach. That's gonna do a one-on-one training with him today. So, and that's like I got to have him there at 6, but I got to drive 20, 30 minutes to get to that. Hey, appreciate the conversation there, Jerome. Again, thanks a lot. Sorry, guys, if I've been ignoring the chat, but it seems like you guys have been fun. I was called a bald one, but I am the bald one. I want to be known as the bald man. With all that said, thank you, guys. It's Monday, and hopefully you've had a pretty decent time during this chat. And I will see you guys tomorrow, 2 p.m. And we'll drop the link in from the beginning for you guys to call me. And then we'll have these conversations. Take care. God bless you. And I will see you tomorrow.